Hello.
Good afternoon, Canada.
Good
Can't
afternoon,
do can't do the
Canada.
loud one. It doesn't work for this.
Oh, that's
It
okay. No
is
worries.
just not right.
What's
No,
what's happening,
I could
Karen?
go with that, and that
Thank
doesn't
you.
suit either.
It doesn't fit.
So
That doesn't work
yeah,
either.
no. Hey, Karen. Hey, Kyle. What's happening? Kyle, my brother. So
We hope everyone's well. You got the tag team of the Millennium up here.
I don't
We're
know about
just
that.
we're waiting for the bread of knowledge. What's up,
Masha, Masha,
Raves?
Masha. Hey,
Ghost
Raves.
Tracers, Maja, how you doing?
Now that's
What's
a
happening, Crimson?
Ghost Tracers. That's a face, Crimson. That's a face I have not seen for a while. Is Miss Raves. I hope you were doing.
Yeah.
I hope you were doing okay, hon.
How are you doing, Raves?
So
There's Spike.
there he
The
is.
Spikeastonus. Spikeastonus.
I still like this.
Spikeastonus Rex.
There you go. That's where he goes.
Good times.
"Er?"
Er? Mm.
Let's see.
We got the giggles over here.
They didn't have Doritos back then, so what would a Spikestonus have gone after? Brontosaurus
Back there?
Brontosaurus burgers.
Yeah, could possibly.
There you go.
Also, chips. I've been very sick. I have a nasty chest infection that's keeping my ass.
Oh no,
All
that's not good.
rays. We hope you're all right.
Uh,
What's up, Daydreamer? How you doing, buddy? It's good to see
all
you.
right. I promise we'll try and not make you laugh today. So
Right?
there
Yeah.
you go. That's provided that Lost for doesn't show up. If Lost
What's
for
up,
pops in,
Daniel? Yeah, I'll
just
bet you're off if Lost shows up.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
yep, yep.
So where are we at today? We are
Well, we are coming down to the close of things. Oh, you can disappear and leave it on me. I see how you are.
no, I'm here. I'm just checking on a bread of knowledge. I thought I may have
Oh,
got a
okay.
message, but
A
I
Brit
did
of
not.
knowledge. I like that.
That's our
So
bread of knowledge.
back when Jason was a boy. Thanks, Doris.
Bottom
We
burgers.
have
Hey,
we have
Doris.
Doris before us. I love you,
Doris.
Doris.
Bearded Ghost. How are you, buddy? Much love,
Oh,
man.
well, if that's the case, then if Lost for and Life show up, I can promise you this will go south and sideways quickly.
Oh yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
based based on earlier this week, and I still have my
Hey,
lost
Mephisto.
I still have my lost for equipment sitting here.
Oh yeah, the cock king gun. It's the cock king
Oh
gun.
God.
Oh
Well,
shit.
we'll see if Dan or Dan, right? Dan. I can do it.
Dan. Yep.
Dan.
Yep.
Yeah. So
That's all, folks.
yeah, he got caught in part of the storm that
Mhm.
was known as Ian. So he's been in and out a little bit. So, but where we are today, let's see, we have gone from the beginning of World War II and the events that led up to it, through the
Yep.
entire European campaign, into the introduction of the Japanese and the Americans into the war. Um,
Yep.
which started a whole other thing off in the Pacific. Sorry, I'll go Pacific here for you guys. So we'll keep it oriented for you. This is going to be bass backwards for me, but I'll make it for
That's
you guys. So we had the European theater over here, and then we went to the Pacific theater. God help me if I have to go back and do that in front of a class somewhere. It's going to screw
right.
me completely up. Um,
Be all kinds of messed up.
that's right. It'll be bass backwards. So down to the surrender of the Germans and the collapse of the Nazi regime, and we are
Yeah.
up to a secondary, whole different thing that was going on. A lot of it at the same time, but just very much beneath the covers. And that's the Manhattan Project. What everybody knows is the Manhattan Project was initially called the um, Clinton Engineer Works, which is probably up to that point the most expensive single project that the government had undertaken. um, was roughly 2 billion, 5 billion, $2 billion. Um, and I had a great kind of summation PowerPoint set up for you guys. Unfortunately, I've had some PC issues, and I used that nasty A word and assumed that since I hadn't messed with it, everything was okay. And about 3 hours ago, I went to check the PowerPoint and found out that well, it was in fact pooched. So
Uh,
I've been scrambling here to put something back together for you guys. It's not complete. It's got most of the high points and some of the other stuff, and I'll just have to finish the rest of it out manually. Terrible thing, but we'll live with it. So, um, do we want to keep trying to stall for time, or are we gonna
um,
pop and go?
we can start. Where did we leave off last? I mean, it's been a minute since we've been on real
Um,
life and everything else.
yep, and yeah, well, we'll take before we
Absolutely
do that.
prayers for
I was
Florida.
say before we do that, we'll take a minute and have some prayers for the folks in Florida and the Carolinas. Um, we actually
Absolutely.
we actually farther up the East Coast got some of it earlier today. In fact, up until just about 45 minutes ago, we had a steady drenching rain going on here. It's not windy. It's not overly nasty. That's one of the nice things about Mama and I living on the west side of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Um,
Yeah.
we miss a lot of that East Coast stuff that slides up and
Yeah.
kind of gets held on the eastern side of the Blue Ridge and just keeps on going. This
Oh,
time, however, the storm reached out farther below in the in some breaks in the mountains, and some of it did get up here, and whew, it was a mess. Your headset is held together by duct tape until tomorrow.
nice.
Doris, Doris, what did we tell you about throwing your headset on the floor when you rage quit your games? You can't do that.
Next
So,
Sunday, we're starting Halloween stuff for October history. Well, actually, we're gonna do the history of Halloween next Sunday.
yep,
So I'm gonna see if I can get some um output from Scott and see how British Halloween started. Because it's different everywhere. I
it
mean, it
is.
all started with
Yeah.
well, it started different everywhere. But we're gonna do that next week, and then yeah, it's
Now,
gonna be fun.
Chris, what's your plan since October 31st, which is the general celebration of Halloween, at least here in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Um, what's your plan? Because we don't really have a show or anything going on Mondays.
On Monday, no, we don't.
So
I
what do
don't
we?
really have any plans. I was hand out Halloween candy, but they can do that
Okay.
if we want to do something
Well,
for Halloween.
I thought we were doing something on your Facebook group or something with.
Yeah, that started yesterday. It's the Halloween costume contest, and we're gonna pick a winner on the 30th, which is the Sunday before Halloween, like the day before Halloween. We're gonna do the Salem witch trials on history, and then at the end of that, we'll pick our top five costumes, and then the panel and whoever's in chat, we're gonna pick a winner, and they'll get a prize.
Okay, so is that the panel's going to pick the top five?
Well, yeah, I mean, we could do that the day before. Um,
How do you want
cause
to go? How do you want to go about narrowing it down?
uh,
So,
I mean, we could all just pick our favorite, like the core group. Like Amanda will pick one, I'll pick one. You can pick one, Misty. Maybe we'll figure it out. We got to work out those details.
well, I was going to say if we're going to participate, I think we don't get involved in the picking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're entering entry, then yeah, you can't be a judge. I'm not entering an entry. I don't think Amanda is. I might dress up if we're doing a show on the 31st. I might put a costume on and do something.
I was going to
That'd
say,
be
see,
fun.
we gray your beard out a little bit. Gray your beard out a little bit. Get kind of a black wig on you, and you
Oh,
could
there you go.
actually, and the brown robes, and you could actually be a decent Hagrid.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Oh,
you could.
Haggard,
Yeah, you could be a decent Hagrid from.
Harry Potter.
Thank you, folks. Don't get old. You get things up here, and the wiring that goes from here to here breaks.
I
Thank
could
God
also.
I got folks like Chris around that know me well enough to go here, spit it out.
Oh, there you go. Doris is going to be a judge for us. That's
There you go.
awesome, Doris. I could also bust out the December suit
That'll work.
and go as Old Man Christmas.
That no, not you can't That would be like me trying to go as the Easter Bunny. You know, except it'd be more like the Easter Hippo. Oh, and he has muted and left us. Damn.
Spike's going to be a judge too.
Okay, that'll work.
Hey, that's going to be fun. So yeah,
See, I
how do
actually
you
think.
like my pumpkin I submitted? I love your pumpkin.
Yep.
That was hilarious. It actually gave me a chuckle.
Yeah, I did. Doris, you'll be pleased to know that Misty looked at it for a second and went, and then laughed.
Harry Potter is awesome.
Yes.
CJ's loving Harry Potter. He never watched them until I made him watch them.
Now
And
you know
he's
the.
watched them now. He loves Dobby
So there you go.
until number 7.
Well, I can understand that. Yeah, number seven's a little sad if you're a Dobby fan. Actually, I was going to say Spike could come as Treebeard.
Spike could come as Treebeard. We could do him up. That'd be all right.
Yeah. All you got to do is get the bark coloring on his face. That's not there. And
Oh yeah,
the rest of him, he could, he's got to lose the hat, of course, but other than
yeah.
that, yeah, he could do a very respectable Treebeard.
Put some twigs in his hair. We'll get him good.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah. I might come as Kool Aid. That'd be the Kool Aid guy. I'd be all right. Hey.
Except you have to get rid of this and
Oh
this.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have to shave all this.
Yeah.
Fucking judge.
Look, you're 20
That's
again.
funny. Ooh. I got a baby face though.
Actually, you know what?
Believe it or not.
You know what? Learn some of the jokes. Do shave everything off and put a Hawaiian shirt on. You could come as
Hey
Fluffy.
Rain.
You could come as
Fluffy, there you
Fluffy.
go.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
Hey, Rain.
I'm a bearded vapor
Bearded
for
vapor.
Halloween.
What were
What
those?
up, Rain?
What were the things called in Harry Potter? The shades that flew around.
Oh, I don't. I should know this.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
No, Reapers. No, they're not Reapers.
Oh,
Hey, Karen, how are you?
hello, Karen. So looks
I
like the
get
big
that a
show.
lot, Ghost
Okay.
Tracers. I get that a
Yeah,
lot.
I could see that. Yeah, we could do that.
Well,
Except
I just gotta shave my head.
I don't think there's one problem, Ghost Chase. I don't think we're gonna get him in a black unitard.
Well, I'll do it. Shit. I went one time as Robin from Batman, but it was the Adam West Robin. So I had like the whole green tights and the red underwear on the outside. Oh yeah, it was a good costume. I should see if
Still,
my mom still has a picture of
I was
that.
gonna say if you've still got that costume, here's what we could do. I'll go as the Cape Crusader, and we can call it Fat Man and Ribbon.
Fat Man and Ribbon. Let's go. I'm down.
Let's put a big F on my
Jason,
chest.
if I send you a link on Messenger, it's for coffee. I buy mine from there. Oh. Can you pick two that you think she will like? Oh, okay, cool.
Okay. And
There you go.
do me a favor, Chris.
What's up?
Hide that one comment if you can.
Which one?
So the one Doris just put up there, because we don't want Misty to have any idea.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this is this being part of the public. She will go
Like
back and
remove
see
it?
it. If you can't, don't remove her, but do just that one.
No,
That way,
that
and
one. Okay, don't get mad at me, Doris. I just took the comment down. Shit, there we go. I froze up there for a minute.
Yep.
Oh,
So and Doris will take care of we'll hook up. Yeah, don't worry.
it'll be all good.
We
We'll
got
make
it.
it work.
We got
We
this.
got this.
We got it. We got it. We got it. So
I can take it off. Who's taking what off and what now? What? Oh, we get
the comment, the message.
the comment.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, got you.
She's going to redact it, as they say in the gooberment. So, and I guess for all my stalling, we still don't have a Chris, do we?
Scott?
Scott, sorry.
Nah, let's. I'm not sure where he is, but
All right. Well, let's go
I'm
ahead and
sure
roll
he'll
this,
come in.
folks.
Let's go.
This will cover a good chunk of it, and we'll just go manual talking about the other stuff
We
at the end.
we left at last we left just it was D-Day, I think, and the
We
Allies were hammering the beach and
actually, I
pushing the
thought
Germans
we had
back.
gone beyond that and gone to the German
Right.
surrender, because
All right.
Scott was talking about Hitler going,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
He took the coward's way out, kind of thing, in a cave. He was
the
saying.
various different conspiracy theories that he's still around, and that one silly ass TV show that's searching or hunting for Hitler, because they've got a
Hunting
couple
for
guys
Hitler.
yeah, and it's a real show too. They've got guys that believe that Hitler was still alive and went down to South America and lived out his life in South America. So,
Oh,
yep,
I don't think he got out. I don't think there's any way he could have got out. But you never know. I don't know. Who knows?
yeah.
Well, we may never know.
Hard to say.
But
If Patton was still there and Patton had his way, instead of him being removed at that point from
mhm.
commanding the Third Army, I
Yeah,
dare say Hitler would not have gotten out alive.
no, no.
One way
They're
or the
pressing
other,
hard.
he'd have been gotten got. So,
Oh shit.
um, yeah. If it
Wow.
right, wrong, or indifferent, however you feel, um, and I'll say this because I don't think I said this before. My favorite person for World War II was General Patton. So
Patton.
yeah, very very close second to Colonel Doolittle, who led the Doolittle raid, which
The
bombed
two little read.
the very center of Tokyo Industrial District, and let the Japanese know that oh yes, we can get you back. We
Is
can
that
reach out and smack you too.
is that where they were flying off the aircraft carriers, the
Yes, sir.
bombers?
Yes,
Off
sir.
the aircraft carriers? All right,
Yep.
all right.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Um,
cool.
it, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions to that. And I don't think anybody's ever proved it one way or the other, whether he killed Eva or whether she did herself. That what we do know, Trump looks like Patton. No, Trump does
No,
no, no. Trump
orange.
Trump Trump looks more like the pumpkin that my wife picked up to make pumpkin pie out of.
Trump looks
We'll
like Doris's pumpkin.
we'll just leave that go. Oh man, that's nasty. Not going to go there. We're not going
Fuck
to turn this
Trump.
into a political thing.
No,
Um,
no, no. That'd be
yeah,
bad.
so I don't think the one thing that's for sure is that she did die in the same complex that Hitler did.
Yeah.
Exactly who done it is massive
You had to
speculation.
be there.
Yeah,
You had to
and
be there.
it depends on which conspiracy theory you want to believe. The one thing we know is she died same time as he did. So uh, going on, um, we're going to jump into, as I said, the Manhattan Project, which was running. It actually started up in 1939
Okay.
when Einstein wrote a letter to then President Roosevelt. The sum and substance of it was the fact that they believed that atomic fission could lead to bombs, very, very powerful bombs. Um, and they, just like we had talked about in some of the earlier war stuff about effective and ineffective leaders, went through a
Yeah.
couple different changes in leadership for the Manhattan Project until they settled on, at the time, Colonel Groves, now General Groves, retired, um, who basically took the reins and ran with it. And he became the driving force that actually made the Manhattan Project work. In the meantime, there was a lot of basic public people that came in from all walks of life, plumbers, electricians, just you name it, different tradesmen and women that they did very thorough background checks on before they even brought them down. Um, it was probably the largest job fair that had ever happened in the U.S. With the least amount of details to the people that were being hired. So, um,
Tor- Taurus got a question here.
well, the actual idea came from a group of excuse me, from a group of um, scientists, but um, Einstein was part of it. There were a number of uh, other scientists that had been uh, basically doing their best to get out of Germany and to escape the Nazis. So
What, Max?
the geez, who I
Whose
guess
idea was it?
Leo Slizard was one. I don't think they ever really said whose idea it was. I mean, there's so many that were in there. You had Edward Teller, Eugene Winger, you had Fermi, Oppenheimer. There were a number of uh, other scientists, physicists that were named and also not named. So I don't think they ever really came up with the person, because it was traded around, and the people that promoted it, that suggested it, were the ones that had the biggest and best chance of making an impact on the politicians and the uh, governments of the different countries, of trying to get this started. You had the U.S., of course. You had Britain, who was working on it, but they just didn't have a lot of resources for obvious reasons. At that point, they had endured, as Scott has told us, the brunt of the assault by the Germans.
Yeah,
The Germans were another group, and the Russians. So you had all four groups that were working, that had either captured scientists, that had scientists that had escaped from the rest of the war in Europe, or scientists that were there. Ultimately, the thing that proved to be the tipping point, if you will, was the fact that the U.S. was separated by oceans and had no actual conflict on its own ground, that allowed it to proceed and be a place of
yeah,
refuge, if you will, for most of the scientists that had either fled Europe or had come over voluntarily from other places. We had four different places in the U.S. that worked on this. You had the University of Chicago, which created the first actual reactor, um, and got the first
oh
reactions,
wow.
and almost blew themselves up underneath the Northwestern Stadium in Chicago. Um, the you had the Eastern Tennessee area, which was known as the Clinton Engineer Works. You had
Hmm.
the area in Washington State known as the Hanford site, which doesn't have as much written about it as other sites. It was a little more secretive and has been kept a little more secretive. And then you had
Yeah,
what was known as the Trinity site, which was in Los Alamos, New Mexico. And there's actually some interesting and very frightening stories about the Trinity site that we'll get into after the PowerPoint presentation. So let me get this set up here.
that's cool. I
Working
think
it,
they
working it.
all. He said, I
So,
thought the scientists who came up with it regretted it. I think a lot of them regretted it, like after they seen the damage.
actually, yeah, I'll get into that. Hold that thought, Ghost Tracers, because actually, as I said, Einstein wrote the letter to Roosevelt that kind of got this going. Um, However, Einstein was one of the first scientists to walk away from the project and condemn the project. So it's a little interesting. Hang on here. We'll roll this, and then we'll talk some more.
Here we go. Hey, Misty.
Hi, hon.
The British remain significant theoretic contributions. The physics begins.
And remember that the Berkeley, the cyclotrons on the Berkeley campus, that will become important.
All right. Footnote. There we go. Welcome, Epic Cop. What's up, buddy?
And now you see where they got the idea for the name of the Manhatten Project.
That's where the name came from. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind what they're talking about is not having a way to arbitrate the disagreements between the science team and the military. Basically, the whole thing was a hot mess at this point. And this is where they brought in General, well, then Colonel Leslie Groves.
Gross. Leslie Gross.
Yep, who came in and created the Clinton Engineer Works.
Oh shit.
Now, the interesting thing about this is, and I'll go into this a little bit before we hit the next slide.
Mhm.
The Clinton Engineer Works is a section of some 64,000, let me say it again, 64,000 acres in eastern Tennessee that they took from little towns, farmers,
Wow.
people. Yeah, the government usurped, control and ownership of whatever was in their way to make this entire site. And as such, as you can well imagine, you had some people that were pretty pissed off at the government and everybody who was down there. Now, some of them were some of the first employees, note the air quotes, of the Clinton Engineer Works, and were kept on even though they didn't have control of their land. Others got basically pushed out, and a separate city of many of those that were displaced was created called Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where descendants of those families live to this day. Now, there's others that are down there, but they still have second and third generation descendants of the people who were displaced, living in Oak Ridge. And as you can well imagine, just like in a lot of towns that are known as college towns, you have people that are happy with the colleges and people that are really not happy that the colleges are there,
Mm-hmm.
and what they bring to the area. The big thing with this is that Groves and the Sachs and Bush and the other people that were in charge of this put their heads together and basically determined that they would have one politician, Bush, Groves, and one member of the scientific community in a three-way leadership committee for the Clinton Engineer Works. And for the first time, it was the first time that they had ever had scientists directly involved and with a say so at the highest level of operations of this program. And that later proved to be a game changer for how the project moved forward. Because the way it was set up, the scientists were free to bring anything and everything to the table, and nothing was poo-pooed away. They reviewed, they looked at stuff, they compared things. They didn't throw anything away until it was proven or disproven to be
Mm-hmm.
functional and valuable one way or the other. So,
That's
and that
awesome.
is how we began the Clinton Engineer Works. So, December 28th.
64,000 acres. That's great.
Yep.
That's a lot of space.
Yep. And what you're seeing here is the two primary entrances into For all intents and purposes, it was a military base.
Hmm.
But there was more to it. And initially, there were three sites that were set up. You had K25, you had Y12, and you had X10. Initially, K25 and Y12 were the two sites that were, excuse me, doing the enrichment of the uranium using calutrons, and we'll get to that in a minute. And not having a whole heck of a lot of success until they discovered a Navy lab that was farther up in the New England states that was on a much smaller scale, having much greater success at enriching uranium for other
Oh wow.
smaller research projects. So they built S50 down on the ridge. I'm sorry, on the shores of the Tennessee River there, and began the process with S50, and then moved everything to K25 and then into the Calutrons at Y12, and got a much better. They went from basically a 3 to almost a 30% enrichment rate, which doesn't seem like a lot, but going from 3 to 30, it's a big thing back in the day, and that's what they considered to be the finished uranium that they then took and shipped off to another location. X10 was busy designing and building the parts for Little Boy, and doing a little bit of contributory work to the enrichment of the uranium. Not much. It wasn't their big thing to do.
Okay, that's cool.
So, as I said, we had people that were brought in from all walks of life, and they were put through a real strenuous background check before they were brought to the base to work. When they were brought in, one of the things they were told is that absolute secrecy was required, and anybody who talked out of turn was removed from the project and was never seen again by people working and living around the base. What exactly happened to those folks is some means for speculation. Depending on which way you believe. There's a general thought process that they were put into other jobs elsewhere in the government where they could be monitored so that they didn't speak out of turn again. Some were jailed, and others just up and disappeared, and we won't get into that because,
Huh.
again, it's all speculation, and it depends on which conspiracy theory you want to subscribe
Yeah.
to. This was an amazing project that had both wonderful and very dark sides to it, and results to it. One of the cool things that came out, in my opinion, is they had their own busing system, as such, and you can see in the one photo down here, you got a car that's kind of almost axle deep in the mud. They didn't have paved roads on the Clinton Engineer Project, so whenever it rained, you were walking in, you were crossing streets in the mud, and what they had for sidewalks were basically what as like boardwalks, where you've got a decking board that goes across, and they brought in these modular housing units. Some of them were a little bit better than others, where they had people housed, and that was the introduction of asbestosis in the quick
Wow.
manufacture of walls and modular construction of these houses in there. And yes, that is exactly what you think it is, which is why you do not see it in homes nowadays. That they're very careful about tearing down the old ones. But
Hmm.
getting back to the busing system, I think at the time New York had the biggest, most developed public busing system, and this busing system beat the snot out of New York. They had buses arriving and leaving every stop every 10 minutes around the clock, like clockwork. It was absolutely
Oh
insanely
wow.
amazing. Yeah. So, again, the jobs that you were assigned, Chris, be guys like just like you and me,
Oh
regular
shit.
workers that they had down there. You were assigned, and I'll show you another slide here with some of the jobs that they had, even down to the janitors pushing brooms. You did not talk, and they had these bulletin boards or these billboards up all over the place on the site, going into the site and coming out of the site. One of the big ones that has transitioned into modern society is "See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil," and it basically reads, "What you see here, what you do here, when you leave here, let it stay here."
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it's yeah, this is all propaganda that was designed to put fear in the workers that were there. But they had, like I said, they had plumbers, electricians, janitors, cooks, bus drivers, you name it. They brought people in, painters, welders, literally every type of job you could imagine was supported in here, and put into this. Um, the Calutrons, and it's kind of funny. There were two. It came down to two processes that they were going to use to enrich the uranium for this process. And during this meeting, and I'll call it a science fair, it was a demonstration of both projects.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they showed there was a group out of the University of Virginia that brought an idea of using centrifuges to separate the uranium and get the U-235, which is what they enriched, um, separated out so that they could then charge it up and get it ready to weaponize it. And the other group was, as you saw earlier, the group from Berkeley that was using calutrons that they had created. And what you ended up with here, and these are the basic the workers that came in. You can see both men and women, and you sat at your stool and you watched these gauges, or you twisted these knobs, or you worked on
Wow.
specific pieces of machinery here. Um, and that's what you did. And when you walked out, you can see they're walking, but they're not sitting there talking to each other. They're just in, shift out.
They weren't allowed to even talk like small talk with each other. Like
They
even if
it
it
was it was monitored. They had people that walked up and down, and they also had basic uh, um, intercom systems where they could hear, and you never knew who was a rat for the government. So that was a big part of what kept people quiet, was because nobody knew whether you were talking to somebody or not, whether they go back and tell that you were talking. All you knew was if you talked, you went bye bye, and that was it. Um, so it was a very spooky thing to be set up in and to be dealing with. One of the best books that describes this setup and how the general public worker bee would have been is The Girls of Atomic City. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's a very good read. It will give you the brass tacks, layman's nuts and bolts of how these people felt going on. Now, don't get me wrong, they did have some dances, and they had tennis courts and other things. They had schools and other things that were there to show people, movie theaters, some restaurants. But again, you had people that were watching, and nobody knew who was an informant back to the government. So even with all of that going, and even with the social activities that they had set up, you still had this underlying fear of, man, if I say the wrong thing, I'm screwed. It's bad. So again, while it was a good thing, it was also a very dark thing as well. Um, when they had full enrichment of the uranium, they would bring it in, set it in a lead line box inside of a briefcase, a hardened briefcase, and yes, they would actually put a handcuff around the courier's wrist, and have it locked to the briefcase, and that courier would then take a train or a bus out to the Los Alamos Trinity site, where they would deliver the completed weaponized uranium that they
Wow.
that they were going to use for Little Boy. So very, very
That's pretty
spooky.
crazy.
Yep.
That is
Now,
eerie.
again, that was all 1942 and moving on into 44, and a lot of that just kind of continued. There weren't any real great breakthroughs or anything else. They were making progress on stuff.
Hmm.
Um, in the spring of 45, we had some things that happened. Roosevelt died, and Truman assumed the U.S. presidency. Truman, even though he was a high-ranking member of government, he had little to no knowledge of what was going on the Manhattan Project,
Oh
because
wow.
it was kept that close to the vest. There was literally a handful of people in government that knew what was going on. On June
Wow.
6th of 1945, they had a meeting in which Truman was told of the proposal to bomb Kyoto, which was the cultural center of Japan, because they felt that there was a profound psychological impression that would make in destroying the cultural center of Japan. Now, keep in mind, at this point, we had already hopped through the islands, and we were attacking Japan itself, but they had introduced the kamikaze pilots. The word had gone out from the emperor that, and you didn't disagree with or fight or argue against the emperor of Japan back then. That's not the way their culture was. The word went out from the emperor of Japan that he instructed every Japanese citizen to fight to the death with whatever weapons they could get their hands on. So we weren't just
Holy.
fighting. Yeah, we weren't just fighting soldiers. He
Yeah.
had basically weaponized and soldierized the entire country. We had kids that were coming up and attacking soldiers. We had women that were coming up and attacking soldiers. Anybody and everybody, if you ran into it. And keep in mind, you know, there were Chinese that were mingled in there as well, because they had Chinese POWs. And to be perfectly candid, it was difficult to tell the difference in a lot of
Uh-huh.
cases. Plus we had some of the Japanese American, folks that were fighting as U.S. soldiers, and you had some of the Japanese that would take dead U.S. soldiers' uniforms and put them on, and then integrate into the troops and then attack from within. So it was an absolute pandemonium.
Wow.
The way we were having a fight over there. It was just absolutely crazy. Um, the long and the short of it is they rejected Kyoto, and they selected Nagasaki in in its place. And the bomb that was used for that was Little Boy, which was the first of the bombs to be dropped, and that was taken by the USS Indianapolis over to the Enola Gay in a forward air base, and then dropped on Nagasaki. A couple of things to take note of, and I'll be honest with you, it's been a crazy end of federal fiscal. I do not remember right off the top of my head, and I'm embarrassed about it because I've talked about it several times. I do not right at this moment remember the name of the captain of the USS Indianapolis, but Here's the long and the short of it and how it worked. Towards the end of the project, right before everybody found out that they were making a bomb together without knowing it, and yes, the word got out. Um, there were several scientists that walked away from the project. Most notably was Albert Einstein, who, interestingly enough, had kind of started this project with his letter. And Fermi was another one that was on the fence about it, and kind of fell into Oppenheimer, which is why you hear, Oppenheimer's Deadly Toy referenced in some of the songs and whatnot, especially by the Police or Sting these days. Um, but when everything was ready to go, the parts for Little Boy and the uranium for Little Boy were loaded onto the USS Indianapolis. Now, what's really interesting is when they got ready to do this, a group of not naval men, but government men came onto the USS Indianapolis and brought a lead-lined box that they set down on the deck of the USS Indianapolis
Oh
and
shit.
welded it to the deck of the USS Indianapolis. Then brought in the lead line box that had the uranium, put that inside, and then welded that shut.
Huh.
So, question is, and there's speculation that not even the captain really knew what was in the box, but obviously everybody else knew about the parts of Little Boy, so they knew it was some kind of a big bomb, but they didn't know much else. Now,
Hmm.
this was a secret mission, so at the time, if you'll remember, most of the U.S. fleet was over by Japan. They were well gone from Hawaii, and even most of the islands that we had been hopping through. They had moved on, and they were up in and around Japan. So the USS Indianapolis went by itself to deliver the uranium and the parts for Little Boy to the forward air base and the Enola Gay, which was the plane that ultimately took and dropped it on Nagasaki, which they did. They delivered everything, obviously, because it went off. And because it was a secret mission, they were by themselves. They were then instructed upon completion of the mission to join the rest of the Pacific Fleet down near Japan. So, and again, by themselves. So, the standard practice in the Pacific at this time to make things difficult for Japanese submarines to sink ships is they would zigzag instead of sailing straight. They would zigzag in. You know what? Let me get out of here for a second. I get a feeling I'm sitting here rolling my hands all over the place, and I'm betting nobody's seeing this. So anyhow, um,
Oh.
what the Japanese, our guys would do is instead of sailing straight, they would zigzag and
What's up,
turn
G?
at
How you
at
doing,
at
buddy?
odd times to make it more difficult for the Japanese subs to target them. So if you have a Japanese sub sitting waiting off over here, instead of having the boat go across and having the biggest target, showing its side, they'd zigzag
Yeah.
in and out. So it made it much more difficult for them to do. Now there was a policy that they had in place that when they declared an area was clear, captains at their discretion could suspend from zigzagging and sail straight. Because obviously, as you can well imagine, zigzagging takes more time, takes more money, takes more gas, fuel, oil, and everything. And it's a more of a um, it's harder on everybody and the everything. So when leaving the forward air base to go join the rest of the Pacific Fleet, the USS Indianapolis had gotten a message that there were no Japanese subs reported in the area and that they were allowed to suspend from zigzagging at the captain's discretion. Well, the captain said, to hell with this. We're by ourselves. I want to get to where there's other boats as fast as possible. Stop zigzagging. Let's go. Go ahead, Chris. Say it. Let's go.
Let's go.
So
Let's get it.
the sad part was there actually was a Japanese sub that was out there, and no, this didn't have anything to do with Whitewater, Doris. Many moons afterwards, um, there was a Japanese sub that was out there, and the Indianapolis had been gone several days from the forward air base. And long story short, the Japanese sub torpedoed the USS Indianapolis, and it sank. Uh, as it sank, it put out a number of distress calls, which were heard by at least 5 different stations, even one as far out as Hawaii itself.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Unfortunately, through a series of errors and poor judgment, nobody responded to the distress call, and the bulk of the sailors went into the ocean, and there they stayed for 5 days. And during that time, you had people that were burned. You had people who had been covered with oil and fuel from the ship, and the chemicals were eating into their skin. Um, I'm sure everybody here has taken a nice, long, relaxing bath and come out and sworn to God that you were the prune man or woman. Um, think about that. Think about that for a second, and think about what 5 days in the water, in salt water, would do to your skin. It created sores. They had sailors where skin sloughed off in places. They had sailors who were injured, not just burned. And of course, we had the native species that were taking advantage. There were shark attacks. There were not enough life rafts by far because they weren't able to get to them all. Um, Thankfully, they had many of the men in life preservers. Um, some of them got thirsty to the point where they actually hallucinated and ended up drinking seawater, which is very bad for you and killed them. You had others who gave up, just pushed away from everything and went down. You had, of course, ones that died of their own injuries, and then you had sharks picking people off. Um,
Yeah.
it
Shark
was
infested waters
to,
too.
to say to say it was hell on earth. Um, I think would not be an understatement.
Oh wow.
Eventually they got rescued. Um, the sad point to this is that the captain was blamed when they got everybody back, all the survivors back to shore. The captain was blamed, and was court-martialed for dereliction of duty and other things, and then discharged from the Navy dishonorably. Yeah,
Wow.
the imagine going through all of that, being responsible for all of these people who had died, um, and then having to go through the trial, and he did nothing wrong. He did
Hmm.
absolutely nothing wrong, but they used him as a scapegoat for it.
Yeah.
Uh, the result was he was in a very depressed state. Got dressed in his Class A white uniform, went out onto his front lawn, knelt down, pulled his sidearm, and shot himself in the head and killed himself. Um, there is a happy story into this, and that is decades later. And if you haven't seen the Military History Channel's version of the USS Indianapolis, um, I highly recommend that you do see it, unless you have a weak stomach. Um,
I'll check
Uh,
it out.
it is not for the faint of heart. I will put it that way, but it is a part of our history, and it did happen. Um, this boy in Indiana, most places in schools that we grow up with have science fairs. Um,
Yeah,
this one apparently had a social studies fair, which is pretty cool. I would have actually liked to have seen that. But the boy watched the show of the USS Indianapolis on the Military History Channel and was so taken by it that he told his father, and this is a middle schooler, okay? And keep in mind, middle school is like 11 to 13, 14 years old, okay? That's the age range. So this boy was so taken by it, he told his father he wanted to do his history project on the USS Indianapolis. And his father went, all right. And they started and they began by digging into every reference material they could. And as they dug into it, they uncovered the story about how things went down after the survivors came out, and they began reaching out to the survivors of the USS Indianapolis for memorabilia, anything that they had that they'd be willing to part with from that time that the boy could use in his display. Well, to say that the response they got was overwhelming is an understatement. They received memorabilia, hats, pins, shirts, shredded pieces of clothing, diaries, journals, and sailors came forth to tell their stories of what had happened. This turned into a huge thing. Needless to say, the boy won his science fair, and one of the state senators happened to be going through, or was it Congress? It was either senators or congressmen for his area happened to be at the school going through the social studies fair when he won, and stopped and spoke with the boy and his father, and he got drawn into the whole thing and actually began on a crusade with the boy and his father and these other survivors to tell the proper story about what had happened and to set things straight. Well, setting things straight meant that they had to go back and get the court martial and the entire dishonorable discharge of all the men and of the captain and everything reversed. And the Pentagon doesn't like to do that. So it went round and round. It ultimately ended up in Congress, where they managed to get the reversal done, get the good name of the USS Indianapolis restored, as well as the crew and the captain. And there were a number of medals that were conferred to various survivors and posthumously, of course, to others, including the captain. So the ultimate is that this boy and his father, because of their work, were able to get enough leverage behind them and enough of a groundswell behind them to set the record straight on what happened and get these guys recognized as heroes instead of bad folks, folks that had done the wrong thing, and or were victims of a bad captain. So the again, if you get the chance, also watch the USS Indianapolis story. It's fantastic.
that
There
sounds
is
really interesting.
there is a book written about the boy and his father and the whole process that they did. It's actually, I don't remember the name of it. I've read so many damn books on this. It's not even funny. But the Clinton Engineer Works. Sorry, the book that's written on this is in the young adult section because it's meant to spur young boys, into seeing what somebody of their own age could do to make a difference in the world and to make a change. So that was one. The other ones, um, I'm just going to show you a bunch of here. I mentioned that when the completed uranium, enriched uranium, was sent over to Los Alamos, to the Trinity site. Let me show you a few photos on the Trinity site here. And I apologize that my 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 screens are a jumbled mess. This again was from a working file I had on this, so it's not necessarily pretty. Um,
No apology needed, my friend. You good?
so
There you go.
no, it's somewhere. That's the other thing that got messed up, is somehow in the midst of all this, I somehow decided that all of my photos are now going to be opened by Paint 3D instead of the photo program, which is ignorant as hell, but it is what it is. Um, so this is, let me see if I can blow this up a little bit so you can see. So this is the Trinity site, and it's basically just a big desert mesa surrounded
Oh,
by
nice.
mountains. Yep, out in Los Alamos. And this is the crane that they hoisted the bomb up in, to test out. And you've all heard about the Trinity test. You've all seen, black and white versions of it where they've got people sitting there and the wind blows so hard it blows their cheeks up. Blah, 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 blah. They're holding on to the goggles and the whole 9 yards. Um, we did this. We dropped a small test bomb because nobody knew what we were working with at that point. Nobody knew. There were rumors going around the scientific community that splitting an atom and setting off a bomb like this could trigger a chain reaction that would make every atom and every molecule basically catch fire in the world, and would set the entire world on fire, if not blow up the Earth itself. And this is some of the stuff that we were dealing with. There is, and you'll read it in the Girls of Atomic City. One of the buses that came in hit a guy um, who was in the street and caused a number of broken bones. And instead of, they took him to the on-site hospital there, and instead of setting all of his bones, they set his arms and his shoulder and whatnot, but they didn't set his legs. They left his legs broken and injected uranium into the marrow of his legs to see what would happen. This is one of the dark sides of what happened. Now, that gentleman disappeared when the cat got out about what was going on, about what we were building. And there's all kinds of speculation as to what happened to him, where he got disappeared to, etc. Again, it's buried. Nobody knows. It's not something that's going to be ever told, I'm sure. But what we did was we hiked this smaller bomb up to the underside of this platform and had it hitched there. And then you've seen, I'm sure, on the Indiana Jones where he gets out of the trucks or whatnot and goes into this town, and he's in a town, and it's a town of mannequins, and it's actually the Trinity site before the bomb goes off, and he locks himself into a lead lined refrigerator, and the refrigerator gets blown out of the site, blah 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 blah. Well, they actually did. They built a city, a small town, with mannequins inside and outside and everything, set it up just like a small, rural town would be, to see what would happen when they dropped the bomb. Now, the night before, when they hoisted this up there, of course, you're not just going to hoist it up there and drop it in 32 seconds. There's planning that goes on. So the night before they were set to drop this bomb, a storm rolled in, and they didn't have everything set. They didn't have everybody in position. They didn't have everything completed, ready for the test yet. So there was a real fear that this storm with the high winds could knock the bomb off of its house, or off of its catch, and actually have it drop down prematurely and detonate prematurely. So in comes probably one of the least known, least talked about military exercises on U.S. territory, on U.S. soil, which was called Operation Mattress. Operation Mattress was where they went out and grabbed every mattress off of every bed, off of every building in the entire base and piled them at the bottom of this crane, with the idea being that if the bomb did get knocked off, it would drop into a soft pillow of mattresses and not explode. Again, completely crazy, but at the time we had no idea what we were dealing with, so entirely plausible as well. Long and short of it, the storm went through. The bomb didn't fall off. They took the mattresses out the following day, set the detonation off, and the rest is, as you know, is history. So this will give you. Whoops. I think this was the entrance to the Trinity site. Yeah. So this is the Los Alamos project, which is the Trinity site, main gate, going in and out, and there was one, and that was it. And this is the bottom of that crane that I just showed you, and this is the test bomb that they were getting ready to rig up and hoist up. And as you can see, there's this collar that went around it, and if it had fallen out of the collar prematurely, ooh, bad times for everybody. So that that was the Trinity project
So
and
cool.
the test. Yeah,
That is
it
too
was
cool. What's
it
up,
was
J Mac?
really crazy. Then of course we had the second bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima, and that one there's a lot less that's known about the Hanford sites. I've got a little bit on their
Much love,
location,
Doris.
and I will show you what I've got. It's not as much, I'm afraid, as the Clinton Engineer Works, but you get the idea. It's similar. Now the Hanford site is where they were enriching the plutonium, not uranium, plutonium that was to,
Plutonium.
that was to go into Fat Man. And
Okay.
again, you can see I think it's the Seattle River. It's on there. Not Seattle. I
That
got to
was
go
the
back and
bigger
look
one
at it.
they dropped.
Yeah. Well, it's the what they called Fat Man, and I'll show you that one in a minute. But this will give you an idea of the housing and whatnot that went into the Hanford site.
Okay.
Okay, that's what housed all the scientists and the workers. So it's not that dissimilar to what you saw at the Clinton Engineer Works. It's just laid out a little bit differently because of the way the geography worked for them here.
Yeah.
And then this is another one here of more of the Hanford sites where they enriched the plutonium, and then some of the additional calutrons there. And this is probably one of the ones that you've heard about. This is where a lot of the heavy wastewater went. And that is the wastewater being the water that's been irradiated, and is not
Oh,
only not
your screen's not showing.
my screen's not. Is it really?
No,
Well, that's no good. Wait
I
a
thought
minute.
you took it down. My fault.
Oh, is it back up?
Nope.
Well, son of a gun.
I
Okay,
don't know
hang
what
on.
happened to it.
Let's try again. I apologize.
It's all good.
Did you get any of those?
Not the last couple.
Ah,
Oh, there it goes at the basement now.
okay.
There it
Hang on.
is.
All right, let's go
My
back there
fault.
again. My apologies. Sorry.
It's all good.
So we'll start back over again. Ah, damn it. Oh, this pisses me off. New computer coming this winter.
Nice.
Yeah, got to, because this thing's about to drive me around the bend. So
Oh,
come on.
that's cool.
Okay. So that's the Hanford site, the
All right.
actual work site, and then this is the housing that they had there.
Okay. That's where
And
people lived.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's laid out like I said differently. It's more of a grid format here because the geography allowed for it here, where it didn't necessarily in Tennessee because of the ridges and the peaks and the way the land run down there.
Yeah.
And this is more of
Landscaping.
the enrichment site for and the original power plant for the Hanford site. And then this is what I was talking about. This is probably what you are the most familiar with in today's news. These are the tanks that they pumped the heavy water into, the wastewater, the water that had been irradiated, and to say was not healthy would be an understatement. Um, these are the tanks where they're supposed to be working to find a way to cleanse the water and make it safe again. In the
Hmm.
meantime, they have to keep it in these tanks so it doesn't sink down into the earth and get into the water table. And to that end, this is the part of the project that you've been hearing about that we have been dumping money into to keep the water uh, from getting out, leaking out like a leaking gas, underground gas tank or fuel tank. You hear about that happening from time to time where things get in. If you're watching the TV at all, you've probably seen the ads that they have about soldiers that were at Camp Lejeune who got affected by the benzene tanks that leaked into the water system that people drank and made people sick. Well, same basic kind of thing would happen if the water got out of here. The problem is when they put this in, again, we didn't know what we were dealing with. There was no plan long term about what to do for storage with this. So it sat and sat and sat, and now World War II ended when 1945. And here we are coming up on 70 years later that the water has been in these same tanks. Well, the tanks are starting to have problems. So they are in the process of transferring the water from these old tanks that were never expected to have this kind of a lifetime into new tanks. And that's what you see and hear a lot in the news, where the inner tank burst and the water is leaking out to the in between the inner tank and the outer tank, and they've managed to seal it and pump the water out before any of it leaked out and got into the water table, and
Yeah.
that's a big part of the after effect of the downside that we just didn't know. We didn't know what we were dealing with on that. So it's another part of showing you the reactor at Hanford site.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, and you can see how close it is to some of the working buildings and homes that are down there. Uh, these days, you got to put a little bit more distance between you and a working reactor.
You would
So
think.
yeah. Now this is actually the explosion of the bomb that went off for Hiroshima. And let me get out of here. And that was actually taken by another plane very similar to the Enola Gay, but that's not talked about much, which is the boxcar.
Ah, okay.
Okay. And
Oh, look at that.
yep, this is what the plane looked like that delivered the bomb to
That's the one that dropped it.
Hiroshima. Yep.
Instant regret from the pilots.
Yep. So,
Instant regret.
and this is the boxcar crew and the front of the plane. Give you a little bit better look at that.
Okay.
So you can see they've done it up. They got a boxcar sitting there flying. So, and this is obviously it's a much later, as you can tell, the guys are older. Look
Yeah.
at the remaining crew for the boxcar. As these were parts of the B-1 Flying Fortress group, which had a lot of guys in them. And this is what Fat Man looked like as opposed to Little Boy. So Fat Man, as you can see, is a much bigger bomb and was designed differently. So each of the bombs was designed differently. Each of the bombs exploded differently, had a different triggering mechanism, and Fat Man actually triggered with a much bigger yield than Nagasaki's did. I don't have any of the photos, and I'm not going to show any of the photos of the damage that was done to the cities and the people. If you really want to go look at that, there's plenty of places you can go and look it up. It's not one of those things that I am in any way, shape, or form interested in having any triggers go off on. But
We're not here for the damage. We're
yeah,
here for the history of it, right?
the end result was that the Japanese basically all but immediately surrendered, and we have the Japanese surrender that was done on the USS Missouri,
Wow.
and that was ostensibly. Let me bring that up here.
You're not screen sharing again.
I know, I know.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
That's why. That's why I said let me bring it up here. I knew that this time. So, um,
Sorry.
and that was the Emperor of Japan coming in with his High Council
There he is.
and signing the complete surrender on the deck of the Missouri, and all of the officers from all the different. I mean, we had people from all kinds of places in in position for the surrender, and that, ladies and gentlemen, was effectively the end of World War II. There were pockets of places that were outlying or remote that did not get the word. So, did that end the complete fighting all the way around? No, that continued
No.
on for actually a couple of years in different places, depending on where you were. Heavier in the following months, but then as word got out, it was only the most remote places that still were trying to carry on the fight. Um, and
Because they didn't have no internet back then to send messages
no,
out.
and because much of the infrastructure was, communications infrastructure was damaged, a lot of them
Hmm.
were left on their own to
Yeah.
basically carry on. Um, and that was it.
Oh,
That
shit.
was the end of that. So
That was really, really cool.
yeah. Now there are many of good things that have come out of the Manhattan Project. So I don't want to leave you with doom and gloom. Obviously the end of the war, and it depends on which
Hmm.
way you want to look at things. Um, was it an incredibly large, horrendous loss of life and um, injury to people? Yes, it was. There's no getting around that.
So,
It was awe-inspiring. It was awesome. It was, and I'm not talking about in a good way. Um, it was a gut check.
yeah.
Um, Truman, I'm quite sure, had many nights where he was woken up by nightmares from making that decision.
But in your
Um,
opinion, do you think it would have been more loss if they had went back and forth for another 5, 10, 20 years? Or
I
was
will
it
say
less
I don't like to
nipping it in the
speculate.
bud?
I don't like to speculate on that. There's good and bad for
Yeah.
both ways. I will say this, as I said earlier, the Japanese emperor had reached out to all of his people and had told them flat out. That there was no surrender. They were to fight to the last woman, child, man, woman, and child. That being the case, imagine
Hi,
if
Misty.
you imagine if you will, touchment behind me. Imagine if you will, and I've got my glasses off, so I think I see her. Um, think of your neighborhood, okay? Wherever you are, look around you in your neighborhood. Some places are more heavily populated than others. Now, imagine everybody on your side of the street is part of your army, the allies, and everybody on the opposite side of the street, be they military or not, are enemies, and you can't tell who's military and who's not. The way our military was trained, the way we have always culturally respected life, is that we don't fight, we don't attack women and children. It's just the way that we are.
Hmm.
Um, to use women and children in a situation like that where they become weapons of war, and because of our culture and who we are, we had GIs
Yeah.
out there giving chocolate bars to children that would turn around and stab them with knives.
Wow.
Okay.
That's crazy.
You had women that would be as if they were working and then pick up a hoe, a rake, a club, a sickle, a knife, a gun, and start shooting at soldiers. So I will put it this way. Um, would would not doing what we did have resulted in greater loss of life on our side? Absolutely.
Hmm.
Would it possibly have tipped the scales one way or the other? Can't say. Um, again, you can speculate. We lost a lot of people in World War II. We could have lost a lot more. Now, you heard Scott talking about the fact that England only recently got back to what their pre World War II population
Yeah.
level is. Okay. Now, let's look at that. That's the better side of 70 years to get back to where they were before the whole damn thing started.
Jesus. That's crazy.
So think about Canada and how much population you have. You guys are not packed together by any
No.
means, way, shape, or form. You got land.
Hmm.
Once you get outside the cities that you can be in. The United States has packed itself. We still got land, but we've packed ourselves in pretty good. Not as good as the Chinese, but uh, by and large, much more densely um, than before.
Yeah.
The Australians, again, kind of very similar to you guys in that they've got cities where they've got a lot of people, and then you get into the outskirts where you may not see anybody for a while. So any of that you look at and think about losing, I don't know, maybe as much as 50% of that population, you know, and having it gone from 1940 on up to now. That's a huge impact. Um, so when you ask, do I think it was worth it? Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's a hard question.
It's a woulda, coulda, shoulda question. You
It
never know, right?
it is I think The only way to sum it up is it was a choice of the lesser of two evils.
Yeah. Harm
You know,
reduction.
neither one was good. Um,
Huh.
but it was the one that um, we had an advantage for. We took and used that advantage, and no other country in history has ever done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, again, it puts us in kind of an odd spot. Um, we talk about the other countries and their nuclear capacities and their ability to press the button. Still to this day, we're the only guys that have ever done that. Um, Now, on the positive side, that's brought up a lot of good stuff health wise. We got better X-rays. We got um, different scans that are done based off of some of that same science that allow us to look at in more depth our bodies and our health. There's been progression in treatment of diseases based on that,
Yeah.
most notably of cancers and in
Yeah.
cancer research. So, there is good things. We have nuclear power stations, provided that we don't have idiots that build them on fault lines or right by the sea where a tidal wave can cause problems. Um, Not gonna go there. Uh, but the nuclear power stations provide a cleaner um, source of electricity than say coal producing, and that's rough
Can't
for me to
handle me.
say considering the state that I live in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there are some positive things that have come out of it as well. Um,
Oh yeah.
it's a very ominous thing, whichever way you look at it. There's an ominous responsibility that a number of countries in the world now have to keep something like this from ever happening again.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that we talk about it is so that we don't forget about it and so that we don't repeat it. You know, um, Down in Oak Ridge, there is a park that they call Liberty Park, and it is one that has a very special meaning because the Japanese and the Americans have worked together to create this park, and the memorial that sits in the middle of it, which is a bell that is in a pagoda. The pagoda was designed by Japan and built by Americans, and the bell was designed by Americans and built by the Japanese. And every year, during the um, anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they gather down at that park and they ring the bell and in remembrance, much like the rest of the U.S. does for 9/11.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
yep. So it is. Has it solved everything? No, but
No.
we're healing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about all I have to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's been a hell of a ride. The World War II talks. It's been awesome.
it was
Holy
it was something.
smokes.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
it was something. So
Oh shit.
may it
Good times
never
though.
may it never happen again.
I hope. Yeah. I hope and
May it
pray it
never
don't
happen.
happen again. That we learn from the past and find a way to better facilitate a disagreement or whatever. Like it should never come to that. In
No,
my opinion, it should never come to that.
no, no, no. It's a hard thing, and if we'd have paid attention to what was going on and been a little more proactive with it, um,
Hmm.
you know. But on the flip side, is it really the responsibility or right of another country to step in and impose their cultural beliefs on a country that's undergoing things like that.
Mm-mm.
You know,
That's true too.
um, it's hard to say. You look at what's going on between Russia and the Ukraine right now.
Mm-hmm.
And people are very polarized on that. You stand on one side or the other, and I'm not gonna get into
Yeah.
any of that because I don't want to have this turn into an ugly thing. But
Yeah.
where do you, in situations like that, um, where do you step in? Where do you say, hey, you know, and offer either assistance
Yeah.
or condemnation? Um, so it's a balancing act.
Yeah. Where is that line? There's a
Yeah,
fine line there somewhere. You gotta find it, but
there is indeed.
oh shit.
There is indeed. So,
Oh,
did we
thank
hear
you
from
for
our
that.
yeah? Did we hear from our buddy at all?
No, I haven't heard from him. I hope he's all right.
I was to say, I hope he's okay.
Uh,
That's
I
definitely not
haven't got
like
a message yet. I mean, yeah, usually he'd tell me that he couldn't or whatever.
yeah,
I usually am always ready for a nap. There, Mary.
yeah. No,
I
I
get
gotta
up
get
very early with these people, namely my wife.
yeah, I gotta get done with this. Give Misty a hand around the house here and
Okay,
get
yeah,
the
we're
get
gonna wrap it up.
yep get the salmon made because I fell asleep last night instead of cooking it
Oh
last night.
shit,
So I had a
that's okay.
big hunk of salmon to do,
Big hunk of salmon. Is
and I'm
that
gonna
Saturday's? Is that next week's?
we do that Saturday. You know,
What are we doing that this week?
I don't know that we will Misty and I will talk about that because the word that she gave me this morning as she opened up the oven where
Uh-huh.
we have the turkey sitting in a roaster
Turkey.
just thawing out just thawing out
Yeah.
is that the outside has thawed, however the inside is still frozen. So
Oh
how
shit.
how frozen that is, I do not know. I will await Misty's uh, guidance on that. She is by far and without exception the authority in this house on turkeys,
She's the bird expert.
and how to yeah, she is the bird expert, and how to go about cooking them, other than maybe chicken breasts, stuffed chicken breasts. I'll take the lead on that one.
Nice.
But yeah, when it comes to turkey, nope, that is her thing. I'll carve it for her.
Oh
We'll
shit.
we'll we'll come up with different ideas to do with the leftovers, and we'll see where we go from there. The other thing is I promised, and I am still going to perform, is the um, chicken tequila. It's not going to be Alfredo because I couldn't find Alfredo spinach noodles. I found fettuccine
Oh,
uh,
that's all right.
noodles, which is still flat. It's just smaller. So
Yeah.
I do still owe, and I'm going to pay forward on the chicken tequila fettuccine. Um, I've
Nice.
started getting the parts for the roast. So I'm gonna consider doing that. What I will probably do is I will probably do the um, salmon tonight. I will probably do the roast tomorrow night because I don't think the turkey's going to be fully thawed by tomorrow. And Misty will probably start the Thanksgiving feastage on
Oh,
Tuesday.
shit.
So we'll
And
see how that goes. So we got a
and
we got a few
Wednesday
other
you guys
things.
will be sleeping all day, so we won't hear yet.
No, not gonna
Turkey
happen. I got
coma.
I got work to do this
Oh
week. So
man,
yeah,
that's a
no,
big ass bird too.
yes it is.
Shit.
So you can rest assured that we're gonna in and amongst all this there will be some type of a turkey casserole that I'll whip up.
Beautiful.
Um, there will be some type of turkey soup that Mama will do because she is also the queen of soups.
Oh, nice. I like a good soup.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm sorry, my bad. I forgot one of her signature dishes. Except it's with turkey. One of her signature dishes she's also planning on doing is turkey and dumplings,
Oh, that's okay. Yeah,
which is a slight spin to her chicken and dumplings.
I can get on
So
some turkey and dumplings. Yeah, just substitute the chicken for turkey, right? Basically, or
yeah. Basically,
uh,
it's swapping around. You may make one or two vegetable
yeah,
alterations too because of the flavor of it, but
yeah.
basically it's going to be the same thing. Hello, would you like to say hi to everybody? Yeah, come on up.
What's up, Poochie? There
Yeah,
she
hi
is.
there. Yeah, I know
All
you're upset
right.
because Daddy fussed at you earlier when you were messing with the cat. Yeah, hello. Yeah,
Aw.
yes, hello. Yes, yes. Thank thank God I have the beard. She licks the beard, not the face.
Oh
And
shit.
all we gotta do is wash the beard. Yes, yeah, I know. I love you too. Yeah.
So next week we're gonna get into some
Halloween.
fun.
Yep.
Halloween, the history of Halloween, folks.
Yep.
And then
That's
every Sunday,
definite definite research I got to do because
uh,
I don't know jack diddly about that one.
uh,
The history of Halloween.
and
You actually ought to get in on that because that goes right along with your paranormal stuff.
oh yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be paranormal themed every Sunday for history in
Oh, really?
October.
Oh, well
Yeah,
then. Okay. Hold
yeah,
on. I have been informed, madam. I have been informed that the every Sunday history for the month of October after today will have a paranormal theme to it. Therefore, and forthwith, your presence will be requested / required on Sunday history time.
yeah.
So there
That's
you go,
awesome.
folks.
All right.
So
We'll wrap it up. We'll let you get to your bird and the bird
yeah.
and
Oh, hold on.
the salmon. That's what it
Hold,
was.
hold on. Say what, babe?
No worries.
Yeah. Well, Misty's actually got some info on that. She said Halloween goes back as far as the pagan times.
Oh
So,
shit.
yep.
Well,
So
we'd
we'll
love
have.
to have you up as an expert this month, there, Misty. When you can be one of.
She's not going to hear you from, but I'll tell her.
Oh, you can
I'll
tell
tell
her.
her. I'll tell her. Yeah.
I'll be back later tonight. We're gonna do a
Chris,
hangouts.
Chris was yelling that he's loves to have you up here for the history shows this month since it's got the paranormal theme. But I pointed out to him that he's only yelling in my ears because I got the headset on.
It's all good.
Yeah. Oh,
Oh
ouch!
shit.
Ow! 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 Lord, we got to talk about these claws. Hi. Are you that much of a need of a hug? Is that what you want?
She loves you.
You want to go?
Aw.
Oh yeah, yeah. We want to go. OUTSIDE. It's been raining.
Okay.
It's been raining all day, so we run to the door and we slam on the brakes, and we've had our legs crossed now for a long time. So I think we're about to see
You got a
explosion.
window.
Yeah.
Oh shit. All right.
Is that what
I'll
you want?
let you guys go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Misty says we'll talk about the rest of it this evening.
Awesome. We'll see you
I
at the hangout.
sound
All
like a
right,
plan.
folks.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed our World War II series. Much love. Bird is the word, says Mary down there. Bye. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Love ya.